We'd like to move to our Q&A session right now. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and you'll be unmuted and you can ask your question to the presenter. The other option, of course, is to just put your question into the chat feature and we'll do the best we can to try to get through the questions that are in the chat. So I know there's a lot of people out there, so don't be shy. Please feel free to come off your mute and ask any question that you have. Otherwise, you're going to end up with me potentially asking questions, which I'm sure are not going to be nearly as interesting as the ones that you all might have out there. So I'll give it just a few seconds here to see if we have anybody. Am I missing anything there, Emma or Becky?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, feel free just to use the chat function. We can read your question out. And then, of course, like Mark said, you can also raise your hand or come off mute and answer it live as well.
So while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand or to type something into the chat, if it was me typing, it would be a while since I used the two-finger method. Let me start with, if I could, maybe Ned, I'll ask you a question because you talked a lot about or highlighted, digital twin, digital engineering, those kinds of things in industry and the way that you work with them. And I would say that if I had a nickel for every time I've heard the term digital twin or digital engineering over the last year, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I'm just kind of curious, from the industry perspective, what have you found as far as what that really means to them, or maybe and how they should maybe best try to integrate that into the things that they're doing, maybe to be able to work better with, NASA Glenn or AFRL?
I guess I like being a one-handed economist, but I may have to give you a two-part answer. So digital engineering is actually embedded in many of the companies we talk to. You can go all the way to CAD/CAM, custom designing, how it fits into the MES program. So there's a lot of digital engineering that's pretty well established, and it's been practiced, 15, 20 years. The question is the ability then to do those digital CAD drawings and do them in a high mix, low volume environment. And that's missing. Digital twins, when we talk to very big companies, are pretty exciting to folks. Essentially non-destructive testing and a way of skipping early prototype stages. And so that we're seeing in the product development stages across very big companies, still pretty much absent in small to mid-sized companies. They're dependent on digital files being shipped to them, goes into the CAD systems, and bid on it from there. That's of some concern to us because the ability to develop product digitally could be a way of small to mid-sized firms to get some more profit into their system as opposed to get them out of being a digital job shop. There was something else I was going to say about this, and what would it be? Oh yeah, the other thing is part of digital engineering and really would be the ability to go from the CAD file direct to everything, including supply chain to customer seamlessly, and that doesn't exist yet. So hopefully I didn't make too much up.
No, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. So for and I see Tara has typed in a question here, which I'll get to. Well, I'll go ahead and actually ask it right now, basically to both AFRL and NASA, because you two obviously are the both that are most integrated when it comes to SBIR, STTR type awards, working AFWorks, SpaceWorks, through AF Ventures, obviously on the Air Force side, and with NASA, with the small business program, obviously that you have up there. So Tara is curious to hear what your strategy would be for engaging the small businesses and incorporating the technology investment in their technology advancement or R&D objectives that you have. If you needed clarification on that, we can maybe have Tara come off mute and ask too. So I'll start, Daryl, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so again, I'll kind of talk from a big picture, and then I'll offer Dr. Bernstein if he wants to discuss in the specific area. But materials and manufacturing is probably one of the heaviest customers or partners with AFWorks in the SBIR program. I think it's due to the foundational nature of what we do. We have 95 active SBIR contracts. If you look at across the scope of what we work with with the SBIR program, it touches on the things that we're talking about here: advanced manufacturing, hypersonics, all the things that I listed in my briefing there. The SBIR program has changed throughout the years, but and had its glitches and new processes and stuff like that if you've been tracking it. But we have a really good partnership with AFWorks. Not only do we partner with the small businesses through helping to execute some of these SBIR contracts, but our staff is leaned on pretty heavily in terms of being technical point of contacts and reach back for analysis or for evaluation of the programs. So that's a pretty strong engagement area for it. When I talked about other people's money and the dollars that we leverage, the SBIR program is a really big tool for us. Dr. Bernstein, you might have some more specifics in this area, but over to you.
Sure. So I want to be really clear that if we know about a particular engagement between AFWorks and small businesses, we certainly include those outcomes within our technology roadmaps. So even though that they might not be, let's say, Mantech core funded efforts, we intend to draw parallels with technologies and make sure that we're not replicating work with different shades of funds. That's very important to us, and make us understand that each one of these programs is kind of supposed to address a wider technology area. One example specifically is I mentioned in my slides that we're now looking at what needs to be done in the IIoT space and how we can accelerate manufacturing process informatics. We recently, 2 SBR phase 2s were just awarded on how we can better leverage informatics for composite curing off autoclave to inform the next layup procedure. And these are, I can tell you right now, I can't share the roadmap itself, but they're surely tracked within how we view closing technology gaps in that specific area. I'll also mention that for Mantech efforts, those solutions that are well established and demonstrated to customer, for instance, the depot example is a good one. Our partners leverage the SBIR offices to essentially buy more of the same technology to influence other areas within their portfolio. So SBIR phase 3 for our partners, for instance, in the depots, has seen as a good avenue for essentially proliferating good technology that works. Over.
Great, Dawn.
There you go. Yeah, I'll just mention that SBIRs and STTRs are really important to us. Again, being a research center, and I kind of talked about the work that we do, it really spans from low TRL, and because a previous speaker used the term technology readiness level, right, up through, system demonstrations. So down at that low TRL level, identifying technology gaps that are needed to meet some of our objectives, right? So we do depend, quite heavily on identifying those targeted areas where we could really benefit from technology development. Emphasis in recent years has really been in the area of, I mentioned the work that we're doing in cognitive communication. So we've had a lot of SBIR work in recent years here, looking at machine learning, artificial intelligence techniques in order to build that autonomy and that cognition into our communication system. So again, I think every few years, at more of it in an agency level, we take a look at where we see our targeted technology gaps and needs being, and we really focus our SBIR calls in that area, and then we really work with the companies to see how we can integrate that new technology into our technology solutions that we're developing.
Excellent, great. I'll stick with you just for a second, Dawn, because I do want to ask about because one of the things that we obviously do within Parallax anyways is we work with a lot of small businesses, and they always are, of course, asking questions about how can we work with closer and collaborate closer with our large federal partners here in the state of Ohio. So this new facility that it will be open next spring, how do you see potential opportunities for collaboration potentially with small business partners, maybe around the state of Ohio?
Yeah, and we really look at this facility as an asset, not only to NASA, but to the community, right? So, that's why we, wanted the opportunity here to get the word out and at least talk a little bit, highlight, some of the capabilities that the facility will have. What I would recommend, we're very open to partnering and collaborations and using this facility. So again, what I would mention in any of these specific areas, and like I said, we kind of cover all of the discipline areas within communication, but also where I see maybe some real opportunity here is in some of the system level emulation capability that I was talking about. So, I would recommend, if anybody's interested, reach out to the contacts that were provided in the presentation. And I think the mechanism that would probably be used here is, getting our technology transfer office involved in, potentially Space Act agreement. So we'll have to, work out the specific mechanism, but I will say, we are very much interested in this being an asset, for the greater community, not just us here within NASA. Excellent,
great, thank you. So for Darylyn or Bill, either one can sort of take this question. I'm curious because through a number of the slides that you showed, there were you alluded to obviously cyber and cybersecurity being important in the development as the products or the things that obviously that RX is working on there at AFRL. So I'm kind of curious. I've sat through a number of these CMMC 2.0 webinars and things as DoD is trying to obviously implement cybersecurity guidelines, right, for small businesses and those kinds of things. When I talk to a lot of the small business people, of course, they're very concerned about potentially how onerous maybe the rules might be on this. Just kind of curious, I guess, on your perspective, on working with the small businesses and from a security standpoint or cybersecurity standpoint.
I got the finger. So I will. So this is obviously a lot going on here beyond just the manufacturing domain. And to be clear, our division's name is the Manufacturing Industrial Technologies Division, right? So we are focused on improving manufacturing technology. That being said, we see cybersecurity as vital for any introduction or new tech insertion into existing platforms. So I would say, to first answer your question, is we're at this point in a wait and see mode on what the experts, quote unquote, will develop, how it will be adopted in other adjacent domains, and see what else needs to be done to drive it into the manufacturing tech space. Actually, this was a key argument. It was a good argument within the tech data package monetization workshop that we held with a whole lot of industry, discussing on, is this a manufacturing problem? And the outcome was, it might be, but we don't know yet, because we need to see what CMMC 2.0 does for the rest of those critically important secure domains. So it's a bit of a punt to your question, but we are aware of what, for instance, Simani is up to and how their relationship with the folks that are leading this effort at NIST are doing. We know how the cybersecurity standards are changing and how the protocols are changing. We don't see it ready for prime time for a quote unquote ManTech project. I hope that's a fair answer to your question. Thanks.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I cheated a little bit, obviously, knowing that you came from NIST. So, that was kind of why I, I wanted to get your opinion on that particular one. I'll follow that thread a little bit, Ned, back to you here. So, because you mentioned the Bachelor of Science and Engineering Technology degree that the Ohio State University has implemented, and many of their satellite campuses are very focused on it. I know working with the Mansfield campus on this. We've had a number of discussions, though, about how do you integrate this cybersecurity piece potentially into that, because of the importance that it will have, my opinion, in the future when it comes to manufacturing. So I'm just kind of curious, I guess, from an academic perspective, maybe, and from your work with the Institute, how you think maybe there's a way to, or is there a way, or should we integrate maybe cybersecurity somehow into these degrees? You're muted.
I will give you the shortest answer ever. Yes.
Well,
but outside of that, one of the things that's important about a technology degree is a very large part of the student's time being committed through co-op education and through experiential education. And I think what happens is the student is going to be extremely motivated, because that's everywhere in industry right now. One of the greatest challenges that I think my colleagues who are delivering this program is actually finding people at a pay scale that we can afford to pay to actually teach that stuff, because the opportunity cost is huge. At the end of the day, I want t-shirts. Every project's a cybersecurity project. You can't get around it. And whether you do outsourced vending or for your cybersecurity, a little scary, but it's got to go all the way down to the PLC level. I mean, the United States allegedly did a nice job screwing up Iranian nuclear production by releasing bugs that screwed up PLCs. So we were the first use case. Mark, I'm going to take this opportunity to just kind of bounce in on one important point. In our work, we see two very different types of small businesses out there. There are small businesses who are founded either to do research or founded with a technology base, and they are cutting edge capable. We can go through examples, but you guys know them as well. My concern is much more kind of the traditional supply chain materials and parts supplier who are trying to have to search from a mechanical world to a digital world. The small companies are where, when I was referring to those companies have problems, they're there. My favorite quote comes from Youngstown's M7 Technologies, who described his shop floor, his OT, as a place where the Jetsons meet the Flintstones.
Nice. I like that. I see we got actually a text from Sandy that she's the lead faculty for the OSU BSET program. I don't know, Sandy, if you'd like to come off.
Good. Sandy and I have to meet.
Then I think Sandy, you should come off mute and just tell us a little bit about cyber and how maybe that planning is going to integrate that into the program.
Sure. So from that perspective, we've got the class in the 4th year, and we're currently in the 3rd year at 3 of the campuses, Mansfield, Marion, and Lima. And so that's going to be done at the same time as the capstone as well. So hopefully we'll be able to integrate some of that into the capstones. But the focus of it is to integrate that concept of the cybersecurity within, looking at the network and the safety, kind of the bigger picture, because we do have in the program, couple courses on PLCs, with growing complexity. We've got the CSM, the smart machine that they're going to be working on for two courses. And so, yeah, so we've got it integrated in there, and it's a really cool program because it does integrate, the mechanical, the electrical, electronic, and then also the industrial, like Ned was talking about. And I was texting with Catherine Kelly, who started the program, and said, oh, Ned's the one who got us started on this. So we thank you for that. And it's going great. We've got several students already, and we've got, it's a great program for young students coming straight out of high school, but also for students that are going back into the workforce to update their skills. So yeah, so we've got a lot of this covered. It's a really cool program.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate
You're welcome.
And Sandy, it's great to meet you. For folks who don't know this, I'm out of state this semester. Sandy just came on, and we haven't had a chance to talk. So I'll see you in January, Sandy.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks.
So it looks like, okay, Becky, you answered Karen's question, so that's good. So we do have one question here that says that he was reading on NIST about cyber physical systems, security at both hardware and software level could be effective, but I'll read about how to be adaptive at manufacturing. Okay, so I guess it's just a statement. Apologize for that. I thought maybe there was a question in there potentially for that. So I was going to mention.
Well, I can just add on to that.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Feel free.
And sorry, my toddler just ran into the room, so I apologize for the background noise. I will just say that for the cybersecurity framework, I actually worked very adjacent to that effort. And if the person on the line that just chatted wants to learn more, they should look up profiles, manufacturing related profiles. Basically, the way the framework effectively works is that there are many different levels of the framework for which you can instill some cybersecurity strategy. And there are actually published recommendations specifically to manufacturing. So just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate it. I was just going to throw out, only because of my my previous life, that for those that maybe don't know, is that the Air National Guard wing at Mansfield, the 179th, is actually in the process of converting over to be the very first ever Air National Guard cyber warfare wing. And then in collaboration with that we have 3 Air National Guard squadrons at Springfield, the 178th wing, that are currently doing space intelligence that will be converting over actually to cyber intel as well. So as a partnership to the Mansfield wing. So there is a lot of interest and excitement actually here in the state of Ohio right now when it comes to those kinds of things. So, okay. All right. Any other questions here? Right now, I'm just getting my questions answered, which is fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, feel free to throw your hand up or and come off of mute if you have a question. If not,
I can also add some more detail to the workforce development question.
Absolutely.
So similar to SIBRs and STTRs, we also are very carefully track congressional interest items of years past and how we can effectively utilize those funding mechanisms to achieve our overall goals. One of which was a very large project that started in 2021 called the Regional Fabrication and Certification Training Labs, was a FY21 CII. Arctos is the performer there, but it's basically developing very niche programs specific to smart manufacturing in Clark State College, Lorain County Community College, and Sinclair Community College, all of which I think they might be spread across all of Ohio. I just know that Sinclair is very close to Southwest Dayton, Southwest Ohio area.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I would just maybe point out to the group, or an area of discussion, is how do we quickly How are we able to quickly certify these programs at a level where they quote unquote matter to the rest of the industrial base? So it's quite challenging for these quick kind of stood up programs to be, for instance, ABET accredited. I know that that's probably not the right accreditation platform,
Right.
but what is the equivalent that we could use so that some of our large OEM partners don't necessarily have to create entire curriculums down the street, which I've seen actually been done by a number of our partners. Over.
I'm sure Ed and Ed can probably help with that.
Well, actually, Catherine Kelly was the one on our team, and she's the director of the OMI. She's the one that led the accreditation process. It was important for Ohio State to have the technology degree ABET certified, but I know there's a second certification program. It's a little less math intense. Sandy, can you respond to that? Because I just said everything that I almost don't know.
Sure. Yeah, it's the ABET technology accreditation. So it is with ABET. It's just a little bit of a different accreditation with some different outcomes. And then the other thing I would add too is we're also looking at micro credentials as well. So packaging up some of the courses for industry partners that might want to just take those too. So
Fabulous. Excellent.